You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Want to take the opportunity to remind our audience that you can RSVP for your spot when we finally, as a full cast, head over to Circa Las Vegas at the Circa Hotel, the Circa Swim area, right on that beautiful, beautiful rooftop that they have over there. Sorry for turning into Andrew Luck. We've been blown away by the amount of RSVPs that we got, and it allowed us to get even more control of Circa Swim. So please keep it coming. We promise you're going to have a great time. If you want to hang out at Las Vegas with the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz, head over to circalasvegas.com/Le Batard. We cleaned it up for you. We shortened it up. circalasvegas.com/Le Batard. Go over there right now and reserve your tickets. Now, it is a Thursday, and you know what that means.
What? Again!
Chris Cody, I forgot to queue up lightning and thunder sounds, so you're going to have to do that for me. All right, it's time for Thursday Thunder, and a reminder that it's presented by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code DAN, because it's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. So here's today's Thursday Thunder, cooked up by one Juju Gotti. We've got the over 11.5 rebounds from Jared Allen. We've got over 5.5 assists from SGA. We've got over 12.5 rebounds from the Greek Freak. And we're closing it all. Sometimes they say the hardest part of a parlay is the final leg. And that's exactly what's going to happen here, because Juju is trusting the Dallas Cowboys to win the game straight up, no spread, money line against the Green Bay Packers. And surely Mike McCarthy won't lose this game. That is the Thursday Thunder. Now, Lucy, you mentioned that this video for the national championship game is probably the worst that you've done.
It is the worst that I've done, for sure.
You're saying that flatly. So we're going to tease that for tomorrow. We don't have it today. You're not here tomorrow, so you don't get to suffer the indignity in person.
Thank God.
But this is my first time in the studio with you in quite some time, and I've had one question that's been on the top of my mind, and I've been dying to ask you it. There's so much going on in the world of college football. So how was Steely Dan?
Steely Dan was so great. So they opened for the Eagles at the Forum. Oh my God, they opened up the set list with Josie. And I was like, we're going to have a great night. Honestly, I feel like they should reverse the order. I feel like the Eagles should have opened up for Steely Dan. That's how good the Dan was.
Whoa, that's controversial.
They were so good. I love going to like classic rock concerts because it's all like old people in the crowd. So nobody stood up the whole time. No one was like, you didn't have to worry about like rowdy people. The only thing that was annoying was the guy next to me was eating French fries and he couldn't see them. So he had his phone flashlight shining on his French fries. And I was like, brother, I know you can just like feel it. Like you don't really need the phone flashlight, but it was a great experience. I love Steely Dan. They played Peg, which is my favorite song. It was awesome.
And that's where you got sick.
Are old people at old concerts like videotaping a lot on their phones, or do you get less of that as well?
There was almost none of that. The only like real song where everyone was filming was Hotel California, but like they also played something before the concert. It was like, please don't be on your phone. But it was almost remarkable because we were really high up to like look down and see no one filming.
That's wild because old people do love recording stuff on their phone. It's like they've discovered it in the last 5 years.
iPads out?
Yeah, they love it. They're like my dad with like my daughter, he loves just getting the phone out and like, let me record this. This is something I feel like I should record.
It's the worst photos you've ever seen of like the moon.
Blurry. I do want to talk college football here because Dan Lanning has announced that he is not interested in the Alabama job, as you do these days, with a social media video that ends with him smoking a cigar. Now, he did have the criticism earlier this season of Deion Sanders saying that his program doesn't do things for clicks.
Substance.
He could have just put out a press release.
That's a good point. He also apparently was watching a Bourne movie last night, which is interesting because I was watching Thunderball last night. A James Bond movie that I feel like I had already seen because I watched it parodied in Austin Powers, but now I know where the sharks in the pool with the lasers on their heads come
That's
from.
not an original concept?
No, I don't think
You
they had
watch a
lasers
lot.
in
You
Thunder.
watch a lot
Laser
of
beams
things
attached
that are
to their
well
heads.
older than you.
There was a spear gun fight underwater that must have been both fun and also terrifying to shoot.
What did you think of the soundtrack?
It was excellent, of course.
Yeah, it's one of my
they're always
favorites.
great.
Sharks with laser beams attached to their heads.
And it was like the whole thing where they have like, they're all underwater with like the submarine that like they have in Austin Powers. It's Dr. Evil. I just like, it's good to finally see the source material for some of those gags 30 years after I already saw them.
So you were laughing at jokes that you didn't understand, like where they were born of or what they were
I mean,
parodying.
I know the genre, so
You
like,
just assumed.
I just
yeah.
thought Dr. Evil had a lair with
the cat on his lap. Like I never specifically.
That's not from
seen-
that. Wait a minute. I need to watch
No
this movie.
way.
It's from Thunderball.
Yeah, it's
I don't
a
know
whole-
if it's in another. Is it that in another Bond film?
It's
too?
a
I knew
villain
that
trope.
I knew that Austin Powers was like a spoof of James Bond, but I didn't know they were like literally
It's
taking
so
scenes
literal,
and
Chris.
stuff.
That was my exact takeaway. I was like, Mike Myers didn't write any of this. This is just like they're doing the exact same
They're number
gags,
two?
but with him doing it, so it's funnier. Like all of the floor opening up and the chair going into it. Like that's just from James Bond. Like Michael Myers didn't like parody anything.
I didn't know any of that. What a bonding moment for us.
I thought Dan told you to go away forever.
Now the show is officially ruined. Mike, do you want to talk more about Dan Lanning or?
I'm fascinated because of what it means for all of college football. I would say we all have our different rooting interests in here. For whatever reason, I'm the only Miami guy.
I'm a Miami
No,
fan.
I'm a Miami
we
fan.
all have the
Yeah,
same
no.
rooting interest except you in that we root against you.
Yes, correct.
Right. But I do think indirectly or directly, what happened in Tuscaloosa yesterday is going to touch every single one of our programs. Some form or
Even
fashion.
Iowa.
Be it
Yeah,
an-
how is it going to impact Iowa? I'd like to know.
Be it an assistant coach, we will find the answer. Be it an assistant coach that
let's
is
see.
leaving that staff to go join another new staff, or a coach that is no longer on a staff, needing a new place, or a portal player, or a decommit. I feel pretty strongly that every single rooting interest in this room is going to be touched by what happened in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban retiring.
I'll take it one further, which is that Lucy, I don't know if you don't have an NFL team, right?
No.
It's possible that it might touch your NFL team and your college football team because there's
Touch
going
both
to
my
be
teams.
the dominoes. They are a tumbling, and like a guy like Tommy Rees, who now probably would have stuck around if Saban was coming back next year. Maybe he'll go to the NFL. I feel like he's someone that would fit in really well as an NFL offensive coordinator. And then those dominoes will continue to fall as well.
If my reporting is accurate, and it always is, Tommy Rees talking to Alabama about the head coaching job. If he doesn't get it, it's highly improbable that he returns. It's just a weird dynamic. If he interviewed for a job that he didn't get and he ends up working for someone that wasn't on the staff before. And if it's not Tommy Rees, I doubt they're going to promote anybody else from the inside over at Alabama.
Right. Like if DeBoer gets the job, he's probably bringing his staff with him. And Saban tried to hire Washington's offensive coordinator a mere year ago, and he said no. And that's how they ended up with Tommy Rees.
If we did the hacky question of what is Nick Saban's legacy, I feel like Bruce Feldman kind of touched on it. His ability to just build up coaches, rehabilitate coaches, is almost more impressive than all the talent and players that he went through. Like when you say to me 10 years from now, like, what are you going to remember? Just his ability that like he never had a coordinator flop. Like it was always, he made coach. It was just, that's what I'm going to remember.
Going back to Washington for a second, Ryan Grubb almost took that Alabama job, but he didn't because Michael Penix Jr. was coming back to Washington and he had convinced them. There's nothing keeping him there. It feels like Washington, like Kalen, that seems like a natural move to me, or Mike Norvell because his buyout is so cheap.
I do think that one of the things that Bruce mentioned was Saban's ability to also break up with coaches that landed elsewhere.
Get them hired somewhere else.
Saban had the ugliest breakup one could have in the pros, him or Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino's had a lot of nasty breakups.
Urban Myers was pretty bad.
Urban Myers was really bad. Okay, I'll walk that back. But Saban, it's Urban Meyer. But Saban, outside of Urban Myers in the conversation, was a bad breakup. He got caught in a lie, and he's since explained it, and it was the right move. I think we all agree. But
I disagree. He shouldn't have done it.
learning how to reposition other coaches and players, for that matter, in this day and age in a way that is loving is a touch that is missing from a lot of coaches that are hugely successful, by the way. I know locally down here, Mario Cristobal has kind of learned at the knee of Nick Saban and kind of learned that way of handling things. Is it's not going to work out here, but we're going to find a good spot for you. And I like the dichotomy of Nick Saban having a bad breakup in his past and learning how to do it right as he progressed. And he also had the success to do so as well. And he made all these coaches. It was canon on our show, the Nick Saban rehabilitation program. There were a lot of guys thought to be done when Sarkisian was in the darkest of times. I know he went to the NFL over there, totally built him up. Lane Kiffin, same way.
Bill O'Brien a few times.
He's a kingmaker.
I think about something that, Mike, you shared it on your Instagram story the other day, that speech that always circulates from Nick Saban. Like, he will always have this reputation of, like, he really felt like he did things the right way in college and was a leader and, you know, had a speaking series. Like, he will go down as someone who, like, will always be respected despite what happened with Miami.
Given the expanded playoff, NIL, seemingly opening the door for more parity and more talent being dispersed across the nation, we are never going to see a run like Nick Saban had ever again. It is hard to fathom anyone getting close to what he did, not just replicating it.
There's actually, that's so true. There's a flight right now from Birmingham to Oxford. Oh wait, sorry, England.
I just want to say that when you mentioned the Washington offensive coordinator, I didn't know his name, so I thought his name was a mere year ago.
I just want to say there hasn't been enough Jason Whitlock talk today.
Or Panthers Kings preview.
Yo, let's go. 9 in a row. Let's go.
Hold on. Today is a Thursday.
Yeah.
They got a big game.
Yeah.
Does that mean Roy's hockey show or sometimes after the game with Roy?
Post-game show, possibly. I just got to get a authorization to do that tonight.
Wait, but what is it?
But you will get the hockey show as the post-game show on Friday.
The post-game show
after
the game with Roy tonight, possibly, maybe. And
but you'll get the hockey show. You'll get the hockey show tomorrow as the post-game show on the audio feed, but it won't be talking about the game that happened today because it gets recorded today before the game that happens today.
Yeah, we're trying to fix that. Slow going, but hopefully we'll get that done.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details.